Hi,
Hey.
welcome to another episode of Leadership Studio, where we talk about leadership topics, sometimes the unusual ones. I'm Todd Cargus, and I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Gail Barker.
Hey,
And
Todd.
Gail, would you introduce yourself
Of course I
to
would.
everyone, please?
Yeah. So Gail Barker is my name. I am a leadership coach of 22 years. It'll be 20. I'm in this place where I'm like, is it 22? Is it 23? It's in that range.
You
23.
started when you were a teenager, right?
Right. Absolutely. So I've been in this space a long time. Didn't start out in leadership per se, but that is certainly where I've landed. I have my own company, Stellar Coaching and Consulting. And what else? I live in Strathroy, Ontario. Tiny,
Mm,
tiny. Is it tiny? It's a small town
it's,
with
it's
my
fine.
family. Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Super
Well,
excited.
welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
So we're here today. We're here today to talk about knowing when to let go, and this was a topic that you suggested, and
Yeah.
I love that you suggested it because so much came up when I thought about it. But let's start with, like, what do we even mean? Like, why is this an important topic? Particularly, why is it an important leadership topic?
Yeah. For me, in a nutshell, what I know and what I've learned through my own experience is that this thing of letting go
Mm-hmm.
is an underutilized and undervalued leadership skill.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's not just a skill; it's actually a leadership skill, and from my perspective, a necessary one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Knowing when to let go and being able to let go um, in a timely way and with grace
Mm-hmm.
is what serves systems well.
In a timely way and with grace.
Yeah.
That's that. I mean, it's one of those things that I gotta just take a breath. That's Well, so many things are popping up
Yeah.
these days that are like, oh, that sounds so simple, but that doesn't sound easy.
Right. That's exactly
and
it. Yeah.
right and
Exactly.
letting go with grace, like knowing when to let go with grace, and like grace yourself,
Yeah.
because it's so, like, a lot of the things that we can't let go of, and this
Yeah.
is something that happens all the time, are like, these are things that are wrapped up
Right.
in
Right.
me.
Right. Well, there's a way that so many things get entangled and enmeshed,
Hmm.
and um, there's letting go of a role or a position as a
Hmm.
human, but there's also letting go of like projects and
Hmm.
um, objects, and it's like everything everything needs to be let go at some
Hmm.
point, and the leadership capacity of being able to know when that point has been reached, I think it's not just important, I actually think it's essential. And like I say, underutilized.
Hmm.
Underutilized. Yeah.
What's really interesting, because you started talking about, the things that you can let go of. Maybe it's a project, maybe it's a position,
Yeah.
and I know that we're sort of speaking, within professional context right now, but the example that immediately popped into my head was divorce.
Sure.
And
Personal as well, right? Personal
right.
relationships, whether that's divorce or letting go of your children as they become young adults. Like
Hmm.
there's a thing, there's a way to do that, to do
Hmm.
letting go in general that requires some self-awareness,
Hmm.
some self-reflection,
Hmm.
and a letting go of ego.
Hmm. So, hmm.
I know we were
so
talking
I
about this earlier. It's such a thing,
I
right?
know, right? Like, it's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal, because the other word that's popping into my head as we're talking about this is identity.
Yep.
Right. And
Yeah.
and if I think of roles that I've let go, projects that I've let go,
Yeah.
divorce,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
it has been so wrapped up
Right.
in the question, who am I? and
Right.
and it's like there's a piece of me
Yeah.
that I'm,
Right.
letting drift off on the ice flow.
Right. So
And
it becomes like, who am I now? Right. Like it
right.
starts to, or who will I be without this? The
Hmm.
other place where uh, this whole topic of letting go shows up is in retirement, which is
Oh.
natural. Like
Yep.
Life stage thing. Most of us are aware of it in some way, shape, or
Mm-hmm.
form, but how many people have I seen who reach that stage and all of a sudden feel adrift? They just don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
be or where to be or how to show
Mm-hmm.
up. And letting go is at the core of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's wow. There's it's not just a leadership skill. I mean, it is an essential leadership skill, but
Yeah.
it like what's popping up again as I think of this is like, the way we do one thing is the way we do all things, which is a bit of a simplification, I understand.
Yeah.
But if I can successfully let go of
Yeah.
a project, let go of, whatever, let go of, it's almost kind of like, these essential leadership skills, when done with grace, when
Yeah.
done with self-compassion,
Yes.
right? These are lessons that we could learn very,
Sure.
very early in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't learn them early.
Yeah. 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 Well,
But,
I think we learn them at different stages in different ways and at
Mhm,
different depths, right? Like
mhm,
learning to let go when you're 4 and 5 is a whole
mhm.
different thing from learning to let go when you're 40 and 50, right? It's different stuff
Yeah,
and different
yeah.
life stages and implications,
Mhm.
like yeah, letting go is a thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because we talked about letting go of positions, letting go of projects, letting go of partners,
Mhm.
but the other thing that's popping up is letting go of concepts,
Mhm.
letting go of like,
Mhm.
and the one that's immediately popping up for me, and probably the most profound leadership shift that I experienced myself, was letting go of the need to be right.
Yes,
And
indeed.
yeah.
And I know for me, I
And
I still keep learning that, right? Like, what
mhm,
does it mean to if I could let go of the need to be right in this scenario, what would
what would
emerge?
that be
What would
like?
become possible, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So recently, and you know this,
Hmm.
uh, I had a very recent professional experience of realizing that I needed to let go of a
Okay.
position, and all that it entailed. Like that position
Right.
was, it had security attached to it, and
Yeah.
um, finance, and all,
Hmm.
and a little, dare I say it, a little bit of prestige. There was part of that,
Hmm.
um,
And
but
it was really intertwined, right? Like, I'm making
yeah,
up that it was really intertwined with everything else in your life.
all of it, all of it.
Yeah.
And listen, I had been self-employed primarily for 18 years,
Hmm.
and then slowly found myself entering back into this space of being employed by someone else.
Hmm.
And then for the final 13, 14 months, being fully employed by someone else.
Hmm.
And like my coaching practice went right on the back burner, still maintained a small practice, but
Hmm.
for all intents and purposes was no longer self-employed. And the moment I started going, I think it might be time for me to step down,
Hmm.
step out.
Hmm.
My brain started grappling, like, what does that mean? How will I
Yeah.
be perceived? What will I do after? I'm
Hmm.
letting go of security. What's gonna like, how will I function in a world that needs all of this? But
Hmm.
the question I finally landed on that served me so well
Hmm.
was a version of, so what will be possible for me
Hmm.
and for the system, call it
Mm.
the business, whatever, what will be possible if I let go? And I could see
Mm.
so clearly that things would be possible. I didn't know what they were. Like I couldn't see the specifics, but it was like, if I step out,
Mhm.
things will be able to happen. Like I knew it in every fiber of my being. And so the
Mhm.
letting go of ego, because my ego wanted to do some version of, well, you must suck then, if that's
Mhm.
what's gonna happen. But
Yeah.
what I knew is like, actually, no, it wasn't about whether I was good or bad or anything in between. It was
Mhm.
just what needed to happen. It was
Wow.
time.
And it also, like, based on what you're telling me, it also sounds like, you know, letting go meant knowing that something would happen, but also letting go of knowing what that thing might be.
Right, right. And so I was really blessed because the CEO of the company was really supportive.
Mm-hmm.
Because part of what was happening was like physical signs that, like, okay, something is happening for me and I need to go.
Yeah.
I need to actually take care of me. And it's
Good.
not just a leave of absence. I need to
Mm-hmm.
step away. So there was some
Right.
physical stuff happening. So she was super supportive. And at the same time, she held me to the bar in the sense that she was, because I was anticipating, like, here's my resignation. See you later. I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And she, as a really skilled leader, was like, so we could do that, or we could use the leadership skill of timing
Mm-hmm.
and take a look at how can we use this in a way that actually serves everybody, including you.
Mm-hmm.
So got clear on what my deadline would be, got clear on the appropriate moment to let everyone know, and how to frame it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all part of the letting go, and it
Yeah.
has a different impact when it's done with intentionality.
Well, and I love that you have a story that includes intentionality and grace, because my story includes neither of those things. And no, you know, it's like, as you're describing this, there's like, it lifts the way that you're describing it. There's a lifting that I'm experiencing that's different.
Right.
Right? Because I think the other thing that shows up, and I know this shows up, it showed up in me when I realized I needed to let go of something. It
Yeah.
shows up with my clients when they're
Right.
struggling with the same thing. There's a grieving, there's a, you know,
Yes.
like, right? And there's this expectation that it's going to be hard, that it's going to be sad, that it's going to be, you know, whatever. And certainly all of that exists when you tell your story, and there's still a, you know, and everyone gets to be lifted when it's done well.
That's so beautifully put. I know my experience, it was like, you know, everything was there. I remember
Yes.
that my last week officially in the role, there was excitement, anticipation,
Mm-hmm.
joy, release, anger, frustration, grief,
Mm-hmm.
sadness. It was all swimming
Mm-hmm.
together, just depending on the moment. And truly letting go meant me allowing all of that to be there
Mm-hmm.
and trusting that this will be fine, whatever fine is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you know, this decision does not define you as a human, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
so much more to who I am as a human.
Right.
The decision is a part of it,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it's not all of it.
You know, the other thing that's coming up for me as you're describing this, Gail, is like, these things I think, actually, I'm going to take that back. I think these things are inherently full of conflict.
I agree.
And there's, right, and there's this choice that can be made
Yeah.
about whether the conflict is adversarial or whether it's not.
Right.
And
Right.
right, and what I'll say is that my letting go for most of my career
Yeah.
has been adversarial. Like, I,
Right.
you know, it's
Right.
when I have quit jobs in the
Yeah.
past,
Yeah.
you know, I used to describe, like, you know, the 2 weeks between resignation and leaving were the
Yeah.
best 2 weeks ever, because, you know, what are they going to do? Fire me? Right.
Right. I
And
get to
so,
do whatever I want. And there is a truth to that, right? There
of
is a
course.
truth when you've made the decision to let
Hmm.
go in whatever capacity, whatever way that
Hmm.
looks, whether that's to let go of a job or let go of a role or let go of a relationship or let go of a
Hmm.
project. There is a truth to, like, there's a release here now. I've let that
Yep.
go. It's kind of
Hmm.
implied.
Hmm.
Um, and so all of a sudden I get to show up differently because I know I've let it go. And so
Yeah.
I can be a little bit different. But
Yeah.
there is still, um, it's like, even when I know that the letting go is absolutely necessary and the right thing to do,
Hmm.
there's still some of that other stuff that
Of course.
lives with it, right?
Yeah. So you said something really interesting, because I want to go back to our title as well,
Oh,
right? Because we
yeah,
talked about the importance of letting go. We talked
yeah,
about how to let go like
yeah,
gracefully. We talked about the importance of intentionality.
yeah.
But the title is knowing when to let go. And I think that that's like, if I think of my experience as a leader, if I think
Mhm,
of how my
mhm,
clients show up, I think of some of, the conversations that I have with leaders,
mhm.
it's the knowing that
Yeah.
becomes challenging. And you said something that I would love to talk about a little bit, because you
What did I
said
say?
you could tell in your body,
Yeah.
like you could
Yeah.
tell, like it's your body was telling you there's
Mhm.
something. And the wisdom that I'm hearing is you knew how to listen to it.
Well, here's the thing. So yes, and
Okay.
so I am somebody who gets a lot of information from my body if I choose to pay
Hmm.
attention to it.
Hmm.
So there's the thing.
Fair.
Um,
So,
the the impetus for me even considering letting go. So I
hmm.
had been paying attention. I was noticing some stuff happening, whatever,
Hmm.
and I still hadn't quite landed in the place of Gail. It's time to let go.
Right.
And then one day, it was a Monday, I distinctly remember, my daughter and I, it was after dinner, and we were heading to Dairy Queen because once in a while we're like, we need a sweet treat. So off we go. We're
Absolutely.
heading to Dairy Queen. We were at a stop sign or stoplight, and
Hmm.
my daughter, who's in the passenger seat, she's 22 years old, uh,
Hmm.
looks over at me and, as only a confident 22-year-old can say, asks me, "Hey, mom, do you love your job?" I think she actually said, like, "Hey, mom, do you like your job?"
Wow.
And I looked at her and I was like,
Wow.
"Yeah, I like my job." And then, and this is seared in my brain, the voice tone, everything. And she's like, "Really? Because I've watched you do what you love your entire life, and this does not look like it." Bam.
Ooh.
And I was like, huh. So as much as I was aware of stuff happening in my
Hmm.
body and around me and all the things, it took her reflection to have me, her question, to have me actually reflect a bit and go,
Hmm.
do I like my work? And what does that even mean? And what if I don't? And what if I do? And
Hmm.
so that was the thing that got me swimming. And
Mm.
then as I started looking around me, I went to that question I asked earlier, which is like, what would be possible if I stepped out?
Wow.
That's a tricky question to
So,
dance with.
well, I got another tricky question,
Mm.
because I'm imagining, folks are watching this and are
Yeah,
probably thinking like, well, what
yeah,
does that look like? Like,
yeah,
how am I going to
yeah,
find out? So the question that I have is, great story about your daughter and the reflection,
yeah.
but what had to be true for you to be able to receive that?
So first of all, there's a deep well of trust between my daughter and I, right? Like
Uh-huh.
we've developed this. Um, and what had to be true, what a great question, was I think I was already, even though I hadn't quite acknowledged it, I was already sort of swimming in that question myself, like
Right.
wondering. And so
Hmm.
her reflection, like, anchored it and had me
Hmm.
go, right, this might actually,
Hmm.
like, because what happened for me is like, wait a minute. So I'm questioning whether it's time for me to leave. I'm
Hmm.
questioning how I'm showing up. I'm questioning the impact I'm having. Impact
Hmm.
matters to me.
Hmm.
And then her question had me realize that there was a way I was showing up that she, at least, and she's not the
Hmm.
only one, she was seeing that I was no longer being impactful in the way that I wanted to. Like,
Hmm.
listen, I get that I'm, middle-aged woman, starting to get tired, whatever, but I was exhausted all
Hmm.
the time.
Hmm.
Like it was a thing to get to the end of my day. And so the learning or the lesson that I would want our listeners or viewers to get is like, this takes courage and self-reflection,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
and when it's time to let go, if we can leave when it is time,
Hmm.
it actually serves everybody, and it doesn't make us good or bad people. It doesn't
Hmm.
um, change who we are. It allows us to be an integral part of the system in a
Hmm.
meaningful way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And So listen to the internal signs.
Yeah.
Trust yourself,
Trust
and
yourself.
trust the people that you trust
Yeah.
when they reflect it back.
Yeah. Let yourself
Because I
sit
didn't
in
do
the
any of that
best.
stuff when I did it.
Yeah, yeah,
I didn't
yeah.
do any
Right.
of that stuff.
Right. Right. And then what was and so by not doing any of that stuff, I'm curious, what was the cost to you, Todd?
Well, so I mean, I've talked about this a little bit too, on the show. When I left my last corporate job, it was a flame out. It was like it was a dumpster
Yeah.
fire, and I people jumped in with me, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
And and so what it meant was I needed to spend months afterwards just sort of reconfiguring, like recombobulating, who am I, what am I doing, who am I
Yeah.
on this planet, what am
Sure.
I actually supposed to be doing. And I will say I had completed my coach training by that point. So like I yes, that was part of it, because I think that I had some tools to kind of
Yeah.
think about that from an internal perspective. I think if I was doing it all on my own, it would have been a whole lot more difficult.
Sure.
But what I can say is that letting go felt like weakness. And one
Yep.
of the reasons why I hung on to it so tight and didn't want to let go, and it was letting go of a position.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons I didn't let go of it and wanted to hang on to it so it was because I didn't want to be perceived as, a weak leader,
Right.
or right. And that shows up an awful lot. And it's one of the reasons why I thought, okay, I don't hear adversarial
Yeah.
in the story that you're describing. There
Yeah.
was nothing but adversarial
Yeah.
in my story.
In yours.
And
Yeah.
a lot of it was adversity that I had made up.
Yep. Yeah. Listen, we live in a world that puts a whole lot of value on
Mhm.
things like title and
Mhm.
expertise
Absolutely.
and and all that goes along with all of that,
Mhm.
tenure, right? How
Mhm.
long you've been in a role. And it's
Mhm.
sort of like I had someone say to me, wait a minute, you've only been in the role for like 13 months. And I'm like, listen, I'm telling you, 13 months was enough for me to have the impact that was needed.
Mhm.
And I just know it's time for me to step out. And don't get me wrong, there were dreams and visions I had, plans I had that I did
Mhm.
not get to see to
Mhm.
fruition. But at the very last staff meeting that we had that I was part of,
Mhm.
where I was saying my official goodbye, um, our CEO looked at me and said, once I was done, she said, the hardest part is trusting that the seeds you've planted will be nurtured. And I need you to know that they will be. Like, you have planted seeds and they will be nurtured. And that was really helpful for me. And I get that not all folks have got a CEO that's going to like
Mhm.
hold that for them, but I did. And I was blessed in that way. And even whether I did or not, uh, the reality for me was it is time.
Mhm.
And so I step out, and whatever transpires from here on in will be what it needs to be. Um, you and I have both done the coactive leadership program. So
Indeed.
we've, it's the whole concept of arcs, right?
Yep.
Paying attention to the arc. And if
Mhm.
you end too soon, then it's like arcus interruptus, right? It's like, whoa, and
I forgot
I
about that.
think for some
Yep.
people it felt a little like that. For me,
Yeah.
it did not. For me, it was so clear that
Ooh.
this was the moment, this was the right moment. And had I stayed any longer, it would have been, what do we call it? Arcus prolongus, right? Like just
Well,
dragging it out.
and what I love about what you're saying is that you get to be the protagonist in your story,
Got it.
right? So if it's about you, it's
Yeah.
your arc.
Yeah.
And someone else might perceive,
Yeah.
that, oh, I wanted more Gail, or I've
Yeah.
had enough Gail, or whatever
Right.
it is,
Right.
right?
Right.
But that's
Exactly.
not their story.
It's not theirs, it's mine.
Yeah.
And even, to go back to what we said earlier, even when as humans we know that the arc is
Hmm.
done,
Hmm.
we still get to feel all the feels, right? And the reason
Uh-huh.
I'm naming that is because I think if I don't want listeners to get the idea that it'll just feel right. That's how I'll
Mm-mm.
know. And sometimes it'll feel
Mm-mm.
absolutely horrid, and you'll
Yep.
still know. And that it's a weird feeling. I got to be honest, it was a little
Yeah.
strange to be
Yeah.
feeling all the ick and at the same
Yeah.
time knowing that it was time to go. It was an
Yeah.
interesting thing.
Yeah. And you know, and it's interesting because I think the arc is an important tool,
Yeah.
right? And it's resonating, right? Kat Connect is here with us.
Ah,
And
yay. Hey, Kat.
hi Kat, and Eric's with us too. Come on. So hi Eric, hi Kat. And Kat said, you know, love the reminder of the arc. And I think that arc is really important because, you know, it's a way to objectify what's going on. I can take a look at, well, what is my story from the outside in?
Yeah.
And what do I want that story to look like? Because the story is something we can craft.
Right. And
There's
when
agency.
I can pay attention to like the bones of the story and follow the arc, and then when I can lean into trusting that my arc is what my arc is, there's a way, and I know this is going to sound really hokey, but there is a way that it will turn out for the best, for example, right? Like when I left, I had no clue. I'm like, dear Lord, going back into like complete solo self-employment. And it has worked brilliantly. It's exactly what it needs to be. And I'm showing up the way I know the world needs me to show up.
That's wonderful.
Which is far better.
That's really, really good. It's, you know, I'm looking at the time and we're almost done. I know, right? How'd the time? Yeah. So what's last words? Over to you. What's really important here to say?
I think what's really important and what I would want for our listeners and viewers to get is that letting go, knowing when to let go, I think is actually a bit of a superpower.
Yes.
And serves leadership really well. So leadership serves humanity really well.
Yes.
I don't want anyone to think that I'm not a leader, so this isn't about me. It's like, no, as a human being, knowing when to let go is a superpower.
Yeah, it's essential. It really, really is.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'll say too is, you know, if it's hard, it's hard.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Ask for help, because that's another leadership superpower.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. It's fantastic.
Thanks so much for having this conversation with me, Todd.
I love spending time with you like this. Thank you so much for coming back. Listen, Gail, if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So my website is stellarcc.com. So Gail at stellarcc.com. You can email me. It's probably the best way.
And we'll put that contact information in the show notes too, so that people can reach out to you if they want. Okay. Yeah. And I'm Todd Kargas. You can find me at www.toddkargas.com. And this has been Leadership Studio. I know, right? So fast. So. Thank you so much, Gail.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you everyone for showing up with us. I was really looking forward to this one, and it's juicy. So thank you.
All right. Take care.
Talk to you later.
Bye.